Well, welcome everybody. It is coming up to 2 o'clock, and we're going to try to start on time. I'll just give it a few seconds for any late people to find their way onto their screens. See, we have 41 people with us here, so this is a good turnout. Let me just give you a little preamble to give people time to get in. I'm Peter Wild. I am the executive director of the Episcopal Preaching Foundation. And for the last 2 years, we've been conducting a pilot program of what has turned out to be a very well received and a very robust program for equipping and training lay preachers. And there's been a lot of talk, I think, about equipping lay leaders to participate more increasingly in ministry as a way of revitalizing the church, and also recognizing that we're dealing with increasingly strained resources. So one way of doing that, of course, is to equip lay members to speak with authority and with knowledge from the pulpit. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to tell you about the program. At the end of this webinar, we're going to invite you to learn more, to contact us, and if you feel it's appropriate for you to participate with your diocese in this program. Right now, before we do anything else, I want to play you a video, which is a testimonial by Bishop Scott Barker of Nebraska. Nebraska was one of our pilot dioceses in the program, and I think he can tell you, even with more authority than we can, of how effective that program has been in his diocese. Meg, could you play that? It's very short.
Been such a grace to be able to participate in this program that's been offered by the Episcopal Preaching Foundation here in the Diocese of Nebraska. And the early reports are just wonderful. For the participants, there's the grace of having had a very life-giving and meaningful encounter with Holy Scripture and being shaped by our inherited word in a really extraordinary way. People are also discovering their own voices in terms of sharing their faith stories and really becoming increasingly articulate evangelists for Jesus in the world. And that's been an exciting piece. They've loved the fellowship of being in a close Christian community with people who are learning to preach together, and that's been very meaningful to people. I also think that in the parishes where our nascent preachers are planted, there's a growing excitement to hear fellow Christians tell their stories in a new and really positive and dramatic way. And those folks are increasingly witnesses of being a new kind of disciple who have abilities to reach out and care and share the good news in really extraordinary ways. So all that's good here.
Thank you, Meg. And now I want to introduce Stephen Smith. I will get out of the way here. I'm going to introduce Stephen Smith, who has been running this program for the last actually 3 years through curriculum development and this very successful pilot test. And Stephen's going to tell you about the program, how it works, and how you can participate. Stephen, over to you.
Okay, we've got quite an agenda, and we hope to keep this to under an hour. Meg, if you could bring up the agenda slide, that would be great. I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to go over this afternoon. We're going to talk about the program, its history and development. There'll be a brief overview of how the curriculum works, and we'll say a little bit about how to screen candidates for your diocese. Then how you can participate in the program long range, what are the next steps, and the timeline. We hope that you'll save your questions to the end, and when you have a question to ask, if you would press the raise hand button in your reactions, that will bring you into the front of the queue of all the pictures, and we'll know to call on you and get your question. So can we have the next slide, please? This program, as Peter was saying, has really been developed over a 3-year process. We first of all decided to interview dioceses to see which diocese might want to participate. I think we had over 33 apply, and then we had to choose 6. And we chose 6 and created a 2-year pilot program in those dioceses. And now we've shortened that to a 12-month long program curriculum that can be easily used. Our curriculum is also outcomes-based, which means we're very clear at the very beginning of each session what we're hoping to accomplish. We're also using, in my opinion, some really good tools for education of adults in terms of conversation and feedback, and in terms of experiential learning. So next slide, please. We said this is the 3-year pilot program we did, finding the 6 dioceses, making sure we had the bishop's support. That's very, very important. Each diocese appointed 1 or 2 trainers. Actually, 5 out of the 6 had 2 trainers, just 1 had 1 trainer. And they're going to renew their time with us and do next year's curriculum as well. And they've expanded to 2 trainers because it really works best, I think, with 2. And most of our dioceses had a clergy person and a lay person who was also a licensed lay preacher as the trainers, which I thought worked well. We had 36 students enrolled and 30 of them graduated after the 2 years. We lost 6, more due to people's time and schedule than anything else. We held 2 national gatherings, one at Roslyn Conference Center, which was just a great event where people felt like they were a part of a community that was transforming the church, because they were. And then we held an event at Washington National Cathedral this past November to celebrate everybody who'd finished the 2-year program. And as Bishop Barker said, it inspired participants to deepen their own formation, especially in Scripture. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to talk to some people about their experience. Jessica Walker was a student in the process, and Jenny Beaumont was one of our trainers. So Jessica, we'll hear from you first, and then Jenny, tell us about the curriculum and your training work.
Thank you, Stephen. So as he said, I am Jessica Walker. I'm a member of the Episcopal Diocese of the Central Gulf Coast, and I wear lots of hats in my life. I'm a wife, a mom, a grant writer, a student, and I'm an Episcopal lay preacher, thanks to this lay preacher training initiative administered through the Episcopal Preaching Foundation. So my involvement in this program came about from a really simple question. A few years ago in the post-COVID world, I was in the middle of discerning a call I felt on my life. It didn't make a ton of sense to me at the time, but I felt compelled to call my priest. I told him I felt like I had more to give and that I would love an opportunity to jump in where he needed me. I was thinking small, but he was not. He asked that I prayerfully consider this pilot program, this lay preacher training. The first thing that ran through my mind was that, of course, I can't do that. I'm a mom. I have a full-time job. I haven't spent as much time with the Scripture as I think I should have. I am a recovering Baptist, for heaven's sake. All of those reasons why I was sure I wasn't a good fit turned out to be all the reasons why I was. We know that God doesn't call the equipped, but he does equip the called. And through this program, that's what he did for me. Through the materials and the feedback, the support of our bishop and diocesan staff, and honestly, through the prayerful manner in which the entire course was undertaken, they were all key parts to forming me as a lay preacher. I want to tell you about 3 main ones right now, or 3 big effects that I've felt. One of the more integral parts of the program was the group that was created in my diocese. There were 5 of us, and we were led by the Reverend Dr. Joy Blaylock. And that relationship our group as a whole developed has turned out to be one of the most gratifying of my life, which is not an overstatement. You can't manufacture that type of connection. It can only be forged through lived experiences that create this living, breathing, tiny community of faith. Our little faith community has in turn deepened my faith and my ability to hear and seek God in the most tenuous of circumstances. To see 5 individuals of all generations and from all walks of life begin to vulnerably share and learn together is incredible. Another surprising result is what I've seen it do in my home parish. I'm a member at St. Paul's Episcopal in Daphne, Alabama. We are a fairly large congregation, multi-generational, like many others, and the support that I've found within the congregation is tremendous. Now, many of those members are middle-aged like me, parenting and working and juggling logistics that are sometimes really difficult to manage. If you're wondering, we are the people who look very tired in the pews on Sundays. Some of the most impactful feedback I have received has been from them, my peers, my kids' friends' parents. I've heard that seeing someone just like them deliver a Sunday message has helped them relate to Scripture, to feel more connected, and to feel really confident that what they have to offer is going to be really good for our church. Finally, we know that all actions have a ripple effect. I told you earlier that I'm a mom. I have 2 girls, ages 11 and 15. And when I started learning exegesis and the sermon writing process as a whole, I am ashamed to admit that I didn't even consider giving my girls a chance to offer feedback. After the first few times I preached, my oldest daughter asked if she could read my sermons when I thought I was done with them. I figured she just wanted to make sure I wasn't talking about her in the sermons. But I soon found out I was wrong, because her contributions and her ability to see holes and ask questions from a perspective of her generation are invaluable. By giving her buy-in, I got yet another lens from which to view Scripture. She's a really great analytical listener and a thoughtful kid. And just like there was room for me to find my place in the church, there's a place for her too. She makes me a better preacher and a better mom, and I think she might have a future as a lay preacher too. Anyway, like I said, I was thinking small when the program was presented, but I shouldn't have been. This lay preacher training initiative has been a meaningful, worthy endeavor, and I'm forever grateful to have had the opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Jessica. That was great to hear from you. Jenny, can we hear from you from the other side of the program, the trainer side?
Sure thing. Thanks, Stephen. And thank you, Jessica, for what you shared. I am on staff with the Diocese of North Carolina. I work with adult and lifelong formation. And I joined this as a pilot trainer. I'm also a lay preacher. And so I joined and I was in a team with a clergy person. And we started with a group of 6 people in our cohort. And as a trainer, we walked with them through the program and designing for them their monthly gatherings. We had one on Zoom meeting per month, and we also had an in-person meeting each month. And as trainers, we coordinated them and connected them and helped them form as a group. One of the things that I really noticed as a trainer is that this really helped people grow spiritually. All of the participants let us know how this was deepening their faith walk. And for us in the diocese, this was so important because when you have people growing in their faith, that means their congregations are growing and they have vital congregations. So it really supported the priorities that we have in the diocese. As a trainer, I really appreciated the spiral learning and the outcome-based curriculum. The curriculum was really engaging. There was a lot of self-study and reflection, but there's also an invitation to spiritual practices and actually getting people, adults, doing and having experiential learning, which really helps them connect. So as a trainer, it was just a joy to walk with that cohort. One of the things that some people have asked is how might other dioceses choose trainers, right? You look out at your whole diocese and you think, who would be a good trainer for this? So a couple of things I would say. I do agree with EBS that it really is best to have 2 trainers. In our team, we had 1 lay and 1 clergy, and that was really helpful because we both brought a different perspective, a different lens, and different gifts. I would also say that if you invite people that have an interest in formation, and particularly in lifting up lay voices, that is so helpful to have someone that's committed to lay formation. And those are, I think, the two most important things in terms of trainers, and really just a willingness to guide people in their work.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you so much. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, the curriculum, as we pointed out, it's outcome-based, as Jenny and I both said, and it's a self-study program largely. There are guides to how to use videos and readings. There are 6 2-month series. So over the course of 12 months, you'll do 6 series of training and 8 90-minute study units per series. So that's about 90 minutes every week that the student has to spend in the program. Each unit comprises videos. We have videos from people like Tom Long and other great luminaries in the preaching world. There's a student guide, and of course, there's a facilitator guide and manual that the leaders can address and use to make sure that they guide everyone in their learning. We're going to access it through Google Classroom. And Google Classroom, the beauty of it is it can be just a simple access to PDFs and videos. And if you're really facile with Google Classroom, and your students are too, you can do so much more than just PDFs and videos. But we know that there are different levels of computer literacy. And so we chose Google Classroom for its ease of access. And what will happen in the second 6 months is most of the time spent in groups will be to preach to feedback from one another, because preaching is more than just learning the theory. It's also about the practice. And so we want you to spend 6 months practicing preaching and getting feedback from one another so that you may grow in that experience. And we're going to turn it over to Taylor Irwin now, and she's going to do a brief demo of our Google Classroom. Taylor?
Hey, everybody. Like Stephen just said, my name is Taylor Irwin. I'm a postulant in the Diocese of Atlanta and a student at Candler School of Theology. So I got to take a preaching class with EPF back in January, and they asked me to come on board to help develop this program. I am your distance learning specialist, which is just, I run the Google Classroom, is basically what you need to know. If you've got some tech concerns, you can always reach out to me. And today I'm just going to show you very briefly how Google Classroom works and kind of what we've laid down as the baseline for it. My cat's going to come join us. But you'll get more specific in-depth training on what to do once you actually begin the curriculum, and we do our other trainings later in the summer. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. One thing that you do need to know is you will need a Google account, a Gmail account, in order to access Google Classroom. And if you aren't sure if you have one or how to access it, if you open Google and type in create a Google account, the first search that pops up is going to walk you step by step through how you need to create that. An invitation from Google Classroom, you can then join the classroom as students. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go to classroom.google.com. And once you've been accepted as a student in the classroom, you'll see lay preacher training pop up as one of your listed courses. So you have a click on it. And then you'll start to see, you'll see 3 tabs up here: stream, classwork, and people. And I'll go through later what these different ones are. Today, you guys want to know about classwork. So again, ease of access, you click on it. And we'll have all of our series. So the language that we're using is series and unit. So everything is organized by series and unit, and that's abbreviated S and U. You'll be able to navigate to your series from here. And all you do is and click. I'm trying to find one that I know has a video for you. Click on the material. You'll see it pop up as a PDF. Again. And it pops right up. So pretty painless. Give this a second. Once it's loaded, this is it. This is how you access all of the content. All of the content is laid out as PDFs. So that's very straightforward. Within the PDFs, one thing I do want to highlight for you is that we have some videos. And so in order to watch a video, you're going to click on this link. It's going to take you to a secondary site. So YouTube, Vimeo, something like that. You do not have to create an account on any of those sites. The only thing that you have to do is click on the link. And if it loads, there it goes. Your video will automatically pop up for you, and you can play and watch it. As part of the curriculum, you'll also have access to some supplemental material, which we'll have uploaded and alphabetized for you. And our trainers, you will have access to trainer notes. So those will be directly within the modules under their respective series, and only trainers will have access to those. And we'll handle making sure everyone gets a hold of the material that they need. So that's a very quick, just bird's eye view of how this Google Classroom works. Any questions?
We'll go ahead and leave any more questions to the end. So, but Taylor, thank you very much. That was great. I'm glad you're making this easy for somebody like me. Okay, can I have the next slide, Meg? Here are the series here. We're not going to go over these in depth. We will definitely go over them in depth when we train trainers. But you can see the kinds of things we talk about: the claim of the text, the focus of the sermon, the function of a sermon. What is a sermon? Next, please. Manuscript and memory. How do you do exegesis? How do you shape a sermon? Preaching to feedback. That's, of course, big part of the last half of the curriculum. Can we go to the next one? And what do you do when you don't feel like preaching? Believe me, that happens to everybody, no matter how much they preach. You can get some advice from other lay preachers. We've got some great videos on that. So, and appreciating the sheer art of preaching. So that's just very, very brief overview. This webinar is being recorded, so you can go back and look at it in more depth if you want. But I just want to move on to the next slide. There we go. We just heard from Taylor, so we'll keep moving. What do you need to do to participate? First of all, the bishop needs to support the program. After all, it is the diocese that licenses lay preachers, and the bishop is the diocese. So get their support to begin with. Then appoint qualified trainers. Jenny talked a little bit about what it takes to be a trainer. And we're going to provide 4-hour webinars to train the trainers, not only in Google Classroom, but how to use the curriculum. And we'll have these programs from noon to 4 Eastern time. So if it's all the way on the West Coast, it'll be 8 to noon instead of noon to 4. We'll cover the whole day that way. And they'll be on Saturdays. Hopefully people can make one of these, either May 18th, June 1st, or July 29th. So if you want to adopt this program, please see if you can get some diocesan trainers who want to do this and have them ready for one of those trainings. Then conduct participant discernment. That is really the diocese's job. We worked with 6 dioceses, and we found they were all different in how they discerned who was called to this ministry and who they wanted to invite to train. So your diocese needs to develop its own discernment process, but we'll give some hints about that in a little bit. We hope you'll communicate and raise support for this throughout the diocese. We would like an annual fee of $2,000, but we are making it very clear that we don't want anybody to drop out of this curriculum or not use it, because that's not a possibility. We are seeking additional funding to support this ministry. And we want you to assume responsibility for the training schedule and the support and implementation of it. Next. What we will provide is we'll assume responsibility for the curriculum and materials and their access. We'll conduct monthly webinars for the trainers, create one national online training event for all participants, publicize the program through the Episcopal Church media, and initiate the creation of a National Association of Episcopal Lay Preachers. Like we said, the lay preachers had such a great time being with each other that we've discovered that this really is kind of a movement across the church, and we want to foster that by creating this association. Someone asked if the $2,000 was per participant. No, that's not it. Per diocese. We ask a diocese to support it, their participation by $2,000. Okay, next, please. Candidate screening. This is for the people who are the preachers that we're training. They should be known and respected in the parish community, have some level of scriptural knowledge and literacy. We would love it if they had a level of EFM training in biblical literacy, but there are other programs that we will be glad to let you know about that do introduce the Anglican way of interpreting scripture, because we really want our preachers to know this. It would be another course that they would take, not our course. Our course is strictly preaching. The scriptural knowledge is hopefully received somewhere else. Then we want somebody who generally wants to deepen their engagement with scripture and the Episcopal Church. The time commitment, we said 12 months, 90 minutes a week, basic computer skills and internet access, and we really want them to have a sense of call to this ministry. Next, please. Next steps. You'll receive an online questionnaire to tell us about your diocese. So we hope you will fill out that questionnaire and register to participate. Appoint the diocesan trainers and let us know who they are so we can invite them to the training seminars. Complete the train the trainer training, one of those 4-hour events, and recruit students. We suggest 4 to 8 students. 8 is a little bit gets harder to manage beyond 8, and lower than 4, you really want more than 3, let's put it that way. And we want this to begin in the fall of 2024. That's why we're introducing it now, to give time to train trainers, time to find people who are called to this ministry. And I need to see the next slide then. Okay, that's it. Somebody said they had questions. I know there are probably plenty of questions, but as I said, click the participant button that says raise hand, and you'll go right to the front of the queue and we can call on you. Well, I'm going to call on someone since I haven't seen a hand just yet. Joanne Sailors?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I cannot
questions.
find the button.
Okay.
So has this, I have, I think, 3 questions. Has this been tried with participants serving in congregations without clergy? At the beginning, someone mentioned this sort of conversations with their priest about discernment and so forth.
Yes.
Okay.
Without permanent clergy, or they've been supply, yes. That was not the norm in the pilot project, but we are geared to that way of presenting educational materials.
Okay, and the groups for review and feedback, are those the groups from the diocese, however size, or are those randomly assigned?
The group for feedback is the preachers. your trainee group. They give each
Okay,
other
so
they give each other
it-
feedback. But
okay.
we also have a program that you can use, which is designed around creating a group in the parish to give feedback. There would be an event of training them in exegesis so they could do Bible study with the preacher. And then once the sermon is given, they could do feedback afterwards.
That's the preaching congregation, yes?
Yeah, well, it's called the Sermon Roundtable now, but
Okay.
we have a shorter process for the lay preaching group that uses that same format.
Okay, awesome. And last question. We have a local formation school that has a lay preaching track.
Mhm.
I'm curious how this might supplement that, and I know I'm not saying what's in it, but they have monthly, I think they take 2 or 3 preaching classes along with some other things, a weekend based thing. So if somebody came in with some lay preacher training already, how much of this might feel repetitive?
My guess is some of it would feel repetitive depending on how long they were together, how much work they did. But I would also say that the preaching to feedback, I believe we've developed a good process for that. And most people don't do that. But it's at the heart and soul of almost everything we do in the Episcopal Preaching Foundation. We have found that creating a feedback loop and a community of preachers, a salon of preaching, works immensely well to train preachers. So that's something that they probably haven't gotten in any other program.
Well, they have their class at the formation school because they're studying with bivocational track priests and so forth, but I have no idea how they do that. So, and more feedback is generally better anyway, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Ingrid, did I see your hand up? The hands have disappeared, so
my hand was up to say, this sounds really interesting. Thank you. This is something I have been planning for the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania. And it's fascinating to see the similarities between what you've devised and what I was planning, especially with the spiral learning, which just makes so much sense with adult education. To me, though, it seems as if we would need to have a step before this, and this is not to do with your process. This is more to assist those of us who are selecting candidates for the training, in that I can think immediately of several people in my diocese who have had different kinds of training. Some have been to theology school, some have been to Bible school, some have been to really good EFM preparation, and others have been to terrible EFM preparation. And so it seems to me that if we're going to have some kind of standard for this education, we would almost need to devise some kind of standard assessment for their level of scriptural understanding, if we're going to take this seriously.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I pointed out that some scriptural knowledge is definitely helpful. One of the things that could happen, for instance, is Bexley Seabury, I know, offers an introduction to both the Old Testament and the New Testament on Zoom, 8-week courses that certainly would give any lay preacher an introduction to the Anglican study of Scripture. I also know the CDSP is working on this, and there are others as well. So yes, I would encourage
there
that.
are indeed. What fascinates me as an adult educator is there a way of trying to assess, rather than sending people off, which is great if people haven't done the training, but is there a way of assessing those who have already been prepared to see whether they meet the criteria that we are all needing? So yeah. I'm asking a tangential question, I would imagine.
I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, Anne.
I'm wondering, sort of a simple question, if the slides are available, because those would be incredibly helpful to me. I'll be presenting this information to our Commission on Ministry in about a week.
Okay, Our administrative assistant, Meg, could possibly get that to you.
Thank you.
Okay, iPad. It just says iPad. I'm sorry. But your hand is up. Oh, you're muted, I believe. You're still muted.
How's that?
There you go.
Okay.
Tell us where you're from. I should have asked that. Tell us what.
I am from Trinity Episcopal Church in Fishkill, New York.
Okay.
Trinity in Manhattan sponsored our church in 1756. And that's why the parishioners at that time chose to call our church Trinity, because Trinity Wall Street is our big brother and big sister. So my question is this. I have two questions. First one, how do lay people apply? And the second one is, will this be done by speaking with our bishop? My bishop is Matt Hyde.
Lay people would apply through their diocese. As I said, the discernment and running of the program and licensing is responsibility of the diocese. So if the diocese needs to adopt the program and invite the people to participate.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, if I could jump in and just say, I would strongly recommend you to bring that to the attention of Matt Hyde. I suspect, knowing Matt Hyde a little bit, I suspect that he would be very supportive and quite interested.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Courtney.
My name is Oween Courtney.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Everybody calls me Courtney. If you have people in your parish who are qualified to be trainers, and yet they have not taken the course on lay preaching, how do you handle that?
Well, if they're qualified to be trainers, they're qualified to be trainers. This class didn't exist until 2 years ago, and we had people, even lay people who came on board to be trainers because they had the experience. They were already licensed. You get the idea. So
But
yeah,
if they're not licensed, can they take the course along with the people that they're training?
if you train, you're taking the training.
Okay.
As I like to say, I learn more by teaching than I do anything else. So
thank you.
They will learn. Others. Did I miss somebody from before?
Barbara has had her hand raised for a while.
Barbara.
Thank you. I'm relatively new to the Episcopalian community, but I was wondering, are lay preachers asked to fill in for any church in their diocese, or are they limited to their own parish?
That needs to be the policy of the bishop. Most bishops I know allow lay preachers to preach at any congregation in the diocese.
Thank you.
Good question. Other questions or comments? Oh, okay. Ingrid, you have another question? Yes, Ingrid.
Not so much a question, but as to say that this cometh the time, cometh the answer. There is very much a need for this. When I was in the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania, now I'm in the Diocese of British Columbia, where there's a great focus on raising up lay leadership for worship, and the preaching has always been a challenge. And I truly believe when we get this kind of thing going and we focus on enabling and empowering and supporting the ministry of lay people in worship and leading worship and in preaching, it's a direct response to the needs of the church today. So it's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, one of the things we've been highlighting recently in the Episcopal Preaching Foundation is that we really want all 4 orders to be the best they can be at preaching: bishop, priest, deacon, and lay people. I mean, everyone is called to proclaim the gospel in one way or another, and preaching is one primary way to do that. And the bishops preach out of a sense of our tradition and history, and how do we make sense of that going forward. The priest speaks out of the sense of running and leading a congregation. The deacon preaches from the idea of calling people into the world to ministry. And the layperson preaches about what it means to follow Jesus in everyday life. Now, I know those are 4 really shorthand descriptions of the 4 orders and how they preach, but I think it captures a little bit of what we're trying to create here. Danny, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I was gonna ask if you think this program would go well together with the preaching roundtable, or if they should be done separate. Like, do you think the trainees could benefit from being in that roundtable? Because we're considering starting the roundtable. And I don't know, what do you think? How would these work together?
Well, I will tell you what, I think, you know, having trainees possibly sit in with the priest in the sermon roundtable would certainly improve their knowledge and understanding of preaching and help it grow. And also doing the shorter version of the lay preacher copying of the sermon roundtable, it would work wonders. So yeah, I just think that's a great idea. Having people who are training to become lay preachers also sit in on a sermon roundtable for one of the priests in the diocese. It would be great. Good idea. I wish we'd put it in the curriculum.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Other questions or comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Patty.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to make my hand thing go up.
I know. Took me forever to find that button.
So this might be a tangential sort of question. My name is Patty Hale. I'm a rector in the Diocese of Oregon, out on the Oregon coast. And a beautiful spring day it is here. And I'm also the superior for the Anglican Order of Preachers, which is an expression of the Dominican order within the Episcopal Church and in many of our provinces that are in union with Canterbury. And we have a formation program for those entering our community and who have a very particular vocation for preaching and passion for preaching. I'm very excited about this program. The way it's laid out is brilliant. And I just want to, I would love to chat with you, Stephen, or somebody about how we might incorporate this into our formation program as an option for lay preachers who are, so our community are both clergy and lay. The clergy, of course, have, we assume they've had some training, but our lay preachers, not necessarily. So, and we've been doing that as an order in our own community, but I'm loving the model of this. And so I would love to have if you have an email where I could chat with you about this, I'd love to noodle about how this might work within a religious community in the church.
Okay, Patty, I thought that was you.
It's me.
Yeah, we worked together 5 years ago at a conference.
I know it.
That.
I know it.
That was great. Yes. Do you have my email?
I don't have your email.
Okay, let me put it in the chat.
Thank you.
And let's talk. I would be happy to invite a conversation with you.
We are also hoping to have some kind of standardized practice in the Diocese of Oregon. I'm working with the diocesan staff, and we've a very sketchy kind of program through the years. So this is excellent.
Wonderful. I hope you guys can adapt it.
Yeah, I just want to echo that, Patty. We would love to be in touch, and we'd love to explore exactly how these things can work together.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, Mark Conrad, my good buddy here in Southern Ohio.
Hello. I am Mark Conrad. I am at St. John's Episcopal Church in Lancaster, Ohio, and I'm a licensed lay preacher via Reverend Smith from the lay preaching class that he taught here in our diocese, predating what he's doing up there. And at the end of our class, as someone else had mentioned, the person who took your class, our group really enjoyed our time together. And so we started our own, I got to read it, Episcopal Lay Preachers Association of Southeastern Ohio, or El Paso, to try and keep things going a little bit on a regular basis. One thing we did was we started doing yearly confirmation celebration dinners, so that whoever graduated from the class that year, that summer or fall, we'd have a dinner together and we'd have a little confirmation for them ceremony to celebrate, ordain them, if you will. That's maybe too big of a word as a lay preacher. And it's just some of the stuff we've done. My question is this, because El Paso, our association, has never grown as big as I wanted it to. It was just a bunch of us wanting to keep hanging out together when we could. So I'm extremely interested in the National Association of Episcopal Lay Preachers. So if you mentioned to initiate the creation of that, I just want to put out there, I'm very interested in that. And if there's anything I can do to help that come about, I would be willing to participate in that. I think that's a great idea to keep people in connection after the fact, after the training. And I'm hoping my diocese is going to be totally on board with connecting with this EPF class.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Yeah, and with all the stuff you've done with El Paso, I think that'd be a great forerunner for this national association. Good stuff. Okay, others have questions. If you can't find a button, just chime in. Unmute yourself and ask. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, we hope that you all will adopt this program in your diocese. If you do decide, first of all, send us a registration response. I know Meg is sending you information about registration, basic registration information. If you could send that to us. And if you do decide to adopt this program, as soon as possible, let us know who your trainers are going to be so we can invite them to the training events. And we look forward to working with you, and we hope that as many of you as possible can join in this curriculum so we can continue this movement of lay people taking on more and more of the ministry of the church and doing it in ways that is absolutely incredible and tremendous. It's been a joy to watch it these last 3 years, and I look forward to more growth and expansion. Anything else? Peter, do you have anything?
No, thank you, Stephen. I just want to reiterate for absolute clarity that the process is, once you've decided to join this program, that we will train your diocesan trainers. So first of all, you appoint the diocesan trainers, and you have to decide who those will be. But we first of all conduct the training for the diocesan trainers, and then the diocesan trainers and anybody else in the diocese who has part of this will define what the discernment process is and the recruitment process is for your lay preacher candidates. And then you begin the training. And all the time, Stephen's been very modest, but Stephen's been looking over the shoulder of the trainers and has been part of this as well, to give assistance without being overly obtrusive. The other thing I'll say is that I really have been impressed, and we've been impressed by how this program has deepened the faith and the interest in going deeper on the part of the participants. Jessica was very modest, but she told us the other day that as a result of her participation in this program, she has decided because she is now a postulant and will be entering seminary. So I think that's just as a general truth for all of us, that the more we can empower laity and bring them into having a role in ministry, we all benefit from that. We get a broader intellectual base, we get more energy, And there's a ripple effect as well, but those people in the congregation are also affecting the people around them. So I think these are all very interesting themes. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you all. Jessica, Jenny, Meg, Peter, Taylor, thank you all so much for your leadership.